You're not dramatic. You're drained because you have no boundaries. And if that triggered you a bit, it's because you know it's true. You keep wondering why you feel used, exhausted, resentful, or invisible. But you let people take from you like your time, energy, and peace are on unlimited data. 2026 is not the year you keep being the emotionally free trial version of yourself. Let's talk about boundaries that actually protect you. Here's the real truth. You didn't struggle with boundaries this year because you're too nice. You struggled because your nervous system treats saying no like it's a threat to your survival. People think weak boundaries come from being soft. No, weak boundaries come from being scared. Not scared of people, but scared of what happens after you disappoint them. Most overthinkers don't fear conflict. They fear losing connection. They fear being misunderstood. They fear being judged. They fear the awkward silence after the word no. Your brain reads all of that as danger. So you've been running on a survival loop that goes like this. Agree quickly so no one gets upset. Stay quiet so the vibe stays smooth. Pretend you're fine so no one sees your limits. Carry the emotional workload so you don't look selfish. Forgive instantly because conflict makes your whole chest tighten. Keep draining people around because losing them feels scarier than losing your peace. This is the loop that made your year feel heavy. It wasn't the tasks, the drama, the changes, or the relationships. It was the constant emotional performance of I'm good while your boundaries were screaming for help. Boundaries become impossible when your brain links them with danger, and that danger can come from anywhere. Growing up, being praised for being low maintenance. Learning early that conflict leads to emotional blow-ups. Feeling responsible for keeping everyone okay. Getting used to situations where your needs didn't matter. Being the friend who always picks up the pieces. Being conditioned to earn love by being agreeable. When your identity is built around being the strong one. The chill one, the understanding one, the flexible one, the it's okay, don't worry about me one. You forget that you're a person, not a convenience. And here's the part people avoid admitting. You weren't protecting your energy this year. You were abandoning it. You were giving out emotional access like your peace had no price tag. You were letting people stay in your space even when your intuition was begging you to back away. That's why everything felt heavy. Not because life was too much, but because you never once stopped to ask yourself, is this even my responsibility? You can't live a grounded, emotionally stable life while running on boundary clearance mode. Something has to change before 2026, and it starts exactly here. If you want boundaries that actually protect you in 2026, you need to figure out the exact places where they collapsed this year. Boundaries don't break everywhere. They snap in the same repeating spots, with the same patterns, around the same people. This is not a vibe check. This is a reality check. So ask yourself the question most people avoid because it exposes everything. Where did I allow access that I did not want to give? Not where things were inconvenient. Not where people were annoying. Where you opened the door when you didn't want to and then got mad that people walked in. To avoid spiraling into a full existential crisis, pick one category first. Identity. This is where your sense of self gets shaky. Ask yourself, where did I edit myself to be easier for others? Maybe you lowered your volume so you wouldn't seem too much. Maybe you toned down your personality because someone once made you feel dramatic. Maybe you acted unbothered even though you were screaming inside. Maybe you pretended things didn't hurt you because you didn't want to be the emotional one. Every time you alter your personality for someone else's comfort, that's a boundary breach. Identity boundaries matter just as much as physical ones. Boundaries. This one is brutal because this is where you know you betrayed yourself. Ask yourself, where did I say yes because saying no felt scary? You know that feeling, the tightness in your chest, the awkward panic. You said yes to plans you didn't want. You kept conversations alive you didn't enjoy. You let people back in after they showed you who they were. You tolerated behavior just to avoid confrontation for 5 minutes. You became someone's emotional safe zone while they were your emotional storm. This is where your boundaries got soft because you prioritized comfort over your own peace. Coping habits. This is the sneakiest category because you don't notice it right away. Ask yourself, Where did I cope instead of confront? You overgave so you wouldn't feel lonely. You poured into people because it distracted you from pouring into yourself. You let unhealthy situations continue because dealing with them felt exhausting. You convinced yourself things weren't that bad just so you wouldn't have to act. Coping becomes the enemy of boundaries when it turns into avoidance. Protecting your peace means facing things you've been sweeping under the rug. Self-worth. This is the deepest cut because it's the root of most boundary collapses. Ask yourself, where did I choose being tolerated over being valued? Who did you accept crumbs from because crumbs felt better than nothing? Who made you feel replaceable and you stayed anyway? Who constantly took from you without showing up for you in the same way? Where did you settle because you convinced yourself that wanting more made you demanding? Every time you accept less than you deserve, your boundaries lose strength. Because if you don't think you're worth protecting, you won't protect yourself. And here's the truth you cannot avoid. Your boundary issues don't come from weakness. They come from the exact places you abandoned yourself to stay liked, safe, connected, or needed. You weren't being kind. You were being self-sacrificial. You weren't being easygoing. You were being emotionally replaceable. You weren't keeping the peace. You were keeping yourself small. If you want boundaries that actually hold in 2026, you need to build the first layer of protection around the part of you that broke this year. Name the spot. Own it. That's your starting point for the rebuild. Here's the plot twist you've been avoiding. Healthy boundaries are not about becoming tougher or colder. They're about becoming clearer. People love to act like boundaries are these giant emotional walls that turn you into an unapproachable villain. But real boundaries? They're filters. You're not keeping everyone out. You're keeping the wrong people from draining the life out of you. The shift you need for 2026 is simple, but it's going to feel uncomfortable because it flips your entire emotional wiring. You stop protecting other people's comfort more than your own peace. This means you stop being the emotional shock absorber, the default yes person, the helper with no limits, the safe space for people who don't offer the same safety back. Because here's the truth, your peace is not fragile. Your peace is just unprotected. In 2026, your boundaries stop being vibes and start being sentences. Short ones, not personality essays. Real boundaries sound like, I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I hear you, but I'm choosing something else. I don't have the capacity right now. That behavior doesn't work for me, so I'm stepping back. You don't have to like my decision for it to be valid. Notice how none of these require you to beg, perform, or convince anyone. You don't soften your tone until they approve. You don't make yourself smaller so the boundary goes down easier. You don't explain your entire emotional history to justify why you said no. The behavior shift is this. You stop negotiating your peace like it's optional. If something drains you, you don't push through it. If someone confuses you, you don't chase clarity from them. If someone disrespects you, you don't wait for them to magically become a better person. If someone keeps hurting you, you don't rewrite the story to make them look better. If a situation makes you feel small, you don't force yourself to stay just to seem understanding. You stop adapting to dysfunction. You start removing yourself from it. 2026 is not the year you talk about boundaries. It's the year you live them. Calmly, clearly, consistently. You don't need a sassy boundary era. You need an emotionally stable one. And emotional stability comes from making decisions based on what protects you, not what pleases everyone else. Here's the part that's going to challenge you. People will not like this new version of you, not the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Not the ones who liked how predictable your yes was. Not the ones who counted on your silence. And that's exactly how you'll know your boundaries are finally working. The goal isn't to be liked. The goal is to be safe in your own life. Before you scroll away and go right back into people-pleasing, do this. Write down one person or situation where you kept abandoning your boundaries in 2025. One place where you kept giving access they didn't deserve. Then write the new boundary you will enforce with that same person or situation in 2026. Short, clear, no excuses. This is the first step in actually protecting your energy instead of just wishing for peace. And if you're serious about building boundaries, not just talking about them, subscribe and stick around for the full 2026 Rebuild series. Your emotional peace has been on hold long enough.